5 minutes left. 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 30 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
And boom, we are live. Hey guys, this is Mark, and I'm in a very different location today. I want you guys to give me a sound check on here. I'm just using the built-in Mac microphone with crisp.ai that should be filtering out a lot of noise. I'm getting away from things right now at a beach, and it's a little bit noisy in the spot where I am. So if you guys would give me some feedback on how the sound is, I would very much appreciate that. I'm going to be flexible and mobile. Hopefully, I'll get my audio setup going here if I'm in a more stable location. I'm just kind of scoping out a new spot. I'm not going to tell where because I'm always keeping my location private just to prevent problems with. I've had anybody online is probably experienced this. If you put out your location, you will get sometimes people that stalk you, and it can be quite distracting if people feel like they have some kind of a right to your time. There are locations where I've been where I would say where I was, people would figure out where I was, and they would show up and try to find me and say, hey, let's go somewhere. Uh, and it's kind of like, hey, I have things organized. I like to be friendly with everyone, but at the same time, I don't like having my time robbed by someone either. And I don't like having my privacy robbed. But I am in a very close. Okay, so some of you guys are saying it's good. Someone said it's okay, a little bit muffled. It could be because it's on my legs. How does it sound now if I put it like this, guys? I'm gonna try to. Oh, this is a little tricky right here. I gotta move something here. Let me know if that improves the audio. So instead of having it on my lap, I've got it on this little table here. On the yeah, I'm outside on the balcony. So as the sun rises here, I'm getting the sun right in my face, which is nice. And it's one of the reasons why I like this part of the world. If I'm doing a live, uh, in the evenings, US time, I can be post sunrise, and still, if I organize things properly and I'm in the right location, I can be getting sun while I do live video, which is kind of cool as well. So okay, here we go. So yeah, just getting some feedback here. Yeah, some of you guys are giving me different feedback on the audio and the video. Yeah, we'll get this more stabilized. When if I do stay in this location where I am right now, I'll be getting a more permanent location where I'll have all the audio video gear set up properly and the proper internet going on as well, because this is going to be the I'm connected to this hotel internet right now, which is probably a little bit dodgy. So, by the way, guys, if you ever have any technical issues with logging in or with the pathway to power or anything going on with the software, always reach out to support@simpleology.com. You guys are more than welcome to let me know here. It's good for me to hear if anything like that's happening, but the support staff is there to help troubleshoot that and get you answers. But I do like to hear about it. We like to be very, very on top of those things. Yeah. So anyway, with that, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to start on the soapbox topic. And the topic that I gave you guys was the ultimate lie detector, the ultimate lie detector. So let's talk about this from a couple lenses. And I want to talk to you about this so you can use it in business, because there are people out there who are going to lie to you in your business negotiations when you're out buying services. There are people that will lie to you about the services. There, are people that will set up deals and not be honest with you. And also, I want to show how you guys can be more believable with your audience, because there are certain things that happen on an unconscious level. And if you understand these things, sometimes we don't know that even though we're intending to be fully honest, we don't give people the cues to let them know that we can be trusted, right? What is it that makes someone who looks at something on the internet, look at that and go, okay, I think I trust these guys. I think they're telling me the truth. They're not going to rob me. They're not going to rip me off. What are the ways that we can let people know that? There are a lot of ways to do that, but I want to talk about this through the lens of lie detecting today so that you guys can have this skill. Okay, so I'll give you the short answer. The short answer is that there are ways that you can train yourself to do this, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen is you're going to learn how to train your instincts and trust your instincts. There are a lot of techniques that people use. Like when I was in the intelligence community, I worked with interrogators, and they have very, very specific methods that they use to get people to tell the truth. There are very, very specific and reliable methods that you can train in. So, for example, you can ask people certain types of questions that will elicit a demand for them to generate details. Okay, so when somebody's telling you the truth, the details should be pretty much there most of the time. I mean, sometimes there are details that we don't remember, right? I mean, that's just a natural thing, but you can look for people constructing details. Now, there are people that'll tell you that there are consistent IQs, like when somebody is creating something, they might look like up and to the left or down. I mean, there's all sorts of I think what we're finding now is that there is no like definite eye pattern of when somebody is verbally constructing or is verbally or visually remembering, but people might have patterns, but that's not really the kind of thing that professional people like interrogators or hostage negotiators use. Okay, so they use interviewing techniques that are designed to see, do they have to generate details, and if they do, what kind of reactions are they going to have, and can they see patterns? Now, one thing that you can do that's fairly reliable is you can get people to contradict themselves. Okay, you can get people to contradict themselves, and there are a series of questions that you can ask where you can get someone to say and answer one way and then get them to change it in another way. And sometimes these are innocent lies, right? So the thing that you have to understand is that all human beings lie all the time, every day. And if you don't think that's true, just look at your basic behavior. There are probably little, quote unquote, white lies that you tell all the time. Of course, I encourage people to not do that. I think it's healthier to not do it, but we have to just accept that this is what human nature is. Most people are lying all the time, even if they're things like, oh, hey, I read that book, or yeah, I agree with that person, or I think that's immoral, right? People might make moral judgments about things because they feel pressured to make moral judgments about things, and they will construct a lie, basically. That is a lie, right? When we go along to get along and we just agree with people to agree, we are, of course, ostensibly lying, but we don't categorize these things as lies usually, even though it is actually lying. So you can learn from people when they make those little white lies. If they're uncomfortable about something and they're not comfortable with themselves and their opinions about things, you can see this very clearly often, right? And you can then discern that person's pattern in that and use that for pattern recognition. Now, listen, there's a reason why polygraph tests are not really admissible in a court of law as hard and fact proof. You can't give someone a polygraph and say they failed and say, well, that's it, slam dunk case, it's over. Even the science that we have is not that reliable, okay? So you just have to accept that when people tell you this is the way 100% to know, it just doesn't work like that because everybody has different patterns in their different situations. But here are the things that I want you to walk away knowing, okay? So one, if people inherently kind of know that if details equal truth, then when you're selling, so not only do you use this when you can try to see if someone is shining you on, you can use it to communicate to people more that you're telling the truth. So if you guys ever listen to the conversation I had with Gary Halbert about the coat of arms letter, you guys all have access to that as Simple Luxury Business Class members. You'll see that one of the things he talked about is what he called hidden persuaders. And those hidden persuaders were little tiny details. Like, he gave a specific location, right? He gave his address. He gave all of these little cues to let people know, here's evidence that I'm just an average Joe and that you can trust me. And he wasn't just saying I'm an average Joe. He was giving the detailed cues that would indicate to people that that was, in fact, the case. Okay. So details are convincing. Details are convincing. If you want your copy to be more persuasive, often giving details, the specific right kind of details is very, very important. Now, it's interesting. If you study comedy, you'll find that sometimes you want things to be general, but you want to give a very, very specific detail that's important for people to understand the punchline, or to make the punchline funnier, right? So when Seinfeld has this bit that apparently he honed over the course of several years about Pop-Tarts, one of the things that he did was he honed the language very, very specifically. And he said, when we found the Pop-Tarts, the back of my head blew right off, right? Now, when he says the back of my head blew right off, there's a very specific detail there that makes it funny. Now, you might not think this has anything to do with persuasion, but it does. That's a specific detail that can be used in comedy to make something funny. There are specific details that are more useful in selling, and there are specific details that would be excruciatingly boring to use in selling. So if you're telling someone a story about change and you include little details that are dull or uninteresting, if you're being Faulkner describing, the blades of grass and all of the details in minutia for several pages before you get to the point, you're probably not going to sell. But there are details that will make people more persuaded by the stuff that's important. So if you say, for example, let me think of a good example here. So let's just say you are selling a low back pain product, and you say that you have somebody telling a story, or maybe it's the hero story of, hey, I used to have back pain and then I used this thing and then I changed. That's kind of the essence of the story, because it's about change, but we're not telling the details that are really critical that could potentially sell. Hey, when I was sitting at a desk working, I had to stop working and I could not make as much money because my low back pain kept seizing up. And it was so painful that I could not concentrate on the words that I was writing. See, now those details are relevant because we're speaking out to the details that the person who's experiencing that pain might resonate with. They might go, oh, yeah, that sounds like me. That sounds like something I've experienced. I relate to that. Now, the last thing that we'll talk about lie detecting is that you have a built-in lie detector already. I think almost all of us do. I think what happens is we stop listening to our gut. When we get that little ping in our gut, that little twinge that maybe we shouldn't trust this person, we should inquire further. I think I've probably told you guys many times that almost every one of my wrong dealings in business with people that I ultimately discovered I could not trust, It was because I failed to pay attention to something in that person that was telling me, something's a little bit off here. Something's a little bit off. I don't think I can trust this person. I don't think this person is going to keep their promise. Right. And I am getting better and better and better at this now. I'm still not 100% perfect at it, but because I have made many, many mistakes with this, because I tend to want to trust people. But over time, I'm starting to see those patterns and I listen to them more. And I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to go into this deal with this person. It sounds like it could be really good. But I think that they're going to do something dirty, right? They're not going to keep their promise. They're going to, violate my trust in some way. The deal's going to go wrong. I listen to that. I feel it in my gut. I feel it in my heart. I sense it. I don't know where it is, right? We all feel this and sense this in different ways. But I do think there is something to this. When we spoke about Minsky's emotional machine a few weeks ago, and about how Minsky believes that emotion is just sped up reasoning. He's saying that we often say that emotion and logic are different things, but Minsky makes the argument that emotion is just fast forward logic. It's very concise logic, because there's something that someone is doing, or there's something that you feel, and all of your senses, your gut, your heart, your intuition, like whatever you want to call these things, are giving you communication. Your body is telling you, hey, something is wrong. You just have to learn to ask yourself now, okay, if that emotion is communication, what is it communicating to me, and what can I do with that information? So instead of getting stuck in that emotion, we look at it and we feel it and we go, okay, what is this emotion telling me? What should I learn here? Okay, let's label it. Like, let's say it, feel it, label it. I feel this. I feel this when I think about this particular thing, or when I look at that person, I get this sense. What does that mean? What does that mean? And if you deconstruct it, you will get better and better and better at understanding what that sped up communication is trying to tell you. Okay, so what I'm giving you right now is what we can actually know about lie detection. Yes, there are very, very specific protocols and techniques that you can use that will be more useful in getting someone to contradict themselves, in getting themselves to reveal that they're uncomfortable. You can learn those things, but I think unless you're in some kind of a professional interrogation system, you may or may not benefit from learning those specific tactics. What I would tell you is understand the importance of details, understand the importance of pattern recognition, and understand the importance of just learning how to operate your own self. You have all of these senses guiding you. I think that as we watch more screens and as we pay less attention to the things actually going on around us, and pay less attention to the things that we can feel and sense ourselves, we become disconnected from these things. And I think that we have, I don't know, you could call them superpowers. That's probably maybe a misnomer. I don't know how far I would want to take it, but I think that we have a lot more power than we are generally taught in these things. It's just a matter of tuning into it. And with that, you guys, I'm going to dismount the soapbox and get to y'all's questions here. Okay, thank you guys for all of the feedback about the audio. So I know that the audio and video is not perfect today, but you guys most of you are kind of like, hey, it's not a deal breaker, but not as good as normal. Okay, and we're gonna fix that. Okay. Okay, so we've got Nathan Ellis saying, my revenue is growing very fast, but profit margins are shrinking every quarter. Where is the money actually going? Okay, so this is where we have to have the conversation about what efficiency actually means, right? In a broader sense. So when we talk about the FIRE model, frame, intensity, regeneration, and efficiency, uh, we talk about the efficiency in terms of your ability to convert eyeballs into money, but there is a broader efficiency in running your company. So you need to be looking at the cost of generating the product. You need to be looking at the cost of running the business. And if you don't have a clear handle on these things, you need to get a clear handle on them. If you're not looking at those details are going to get away from you. Things are going to happen. There are going to be people who will misappropriate your funds if you're not paying close enough attention. It happens all the time. It's happened to me many times, and every time it happens because I'm not paying close enough attention. So, most of the very, very successful people in business I know are paying attention to those details. Yes, they have other people, they're scrutinizing those things more closely than they are, but at the very least, they're going in and they're looking at those things. What does it cost me to run my business and why? What does it cost me to run my business and why? If you don't know what it costs to run your business and you're wondering why your business is losing money, even though your gross revenue is increasing, well, you have to dig in there and look at it. If you're not willing to dig in there and look at it, you are never going to get off that hamster wheel, because it's just the natural tendency of things to decay into entropy, right? And again, this isn't just people taking advantage of you. It's just you start getting, things that you are paying for on your credit card that add up that you don't use anymore. There's how many trials have you started for software where you're like, okay, I'm going to try it out, but then you don't, you don't actually use it. There are a lot of companies that rely on this, what they call the breakage model, to make money with their business. They say, hey, a certain percentage of people are just going to forget that they're subscribing to our stuff, and we're going to make our money that way. I think that that's an exceedingly unhealthy way to run a business. If you ask me, I don't think it's the long-term profitable way to go about it, but there are people that do that. So understanding that there are people that run their business in that way, you have to be the hawk on the other side of that. Okay, you have to be watching the expenses on your end, so your expenses are not getting out of hand and you're not just recklessly burning money. Most businesses are recklessly burning money, and it takes analysis of the details to find that out. Sophia Ramirez says, I keep promoting people who are great individually but terrible as managers. How do I spot leadership potential earlier? Well, so you have to understand there's also a difference between leadership and management. There are some people who can be great leaders but terrible managers, right? I think I can be a good manager, but that is not the best use of my talents, right? I'm a better leader, a better creator. I'm not the best manager. I can't force myself to do it. I can force myself to do it, and Simpleology is a way of me saying, hey, here's a way to automate being good at management of myself and of the other people around me. But if you want to hire someone and promote them to become a manager, you need to force them to prove themselves. So this is why I recommend that not only you go through the pathway to power training yourself, but you get everybody in your company doing it as well, because as they go through that, you will find out over time which people are actually showing up and doing the training inside Simpleology every day. I will tell you right off the bat, if you tell people, hey, I need you to do Simpleology as part of your job every day, and they go do it, there's a very strong indicator that, hey, this is somebody who follows instructions, right? And if you ask them questions about it and they can answer those questions, remember, ask for specifics, ask for specific things that they would know if they actually did the training. That's one really good way to lie detect whether or not they're doing it. Now, if they get in there and they do it, they are going to become better workers and over time will become better managers. So I would, have everybody that you hire go through the pathway to power, and before you will consider them for a management position, make sure that they have attained their Symbology black belt, and then have them manage projects on their own. If this person cannot manage a project that they're doing themselves, they will not be able to manage other people doing that project. If they cannot manage themselves doing a project, they cannot manage other people doing that project. So I like to try people out on things in the real world and also see if they're going to lie to me about things. So if you ask someone if something was done and they lie to you that it was done, it's like, hey, okay, I put you in charge of this person. Is this done? And they didn't actually do it and they lied to you. There is a fundamental breach of trust there. There's a fundamental flaw in their character that is going to prevent them from being reliable as a manager. And that doesn't mean that they may not be suitable for other things in your business, but if they are inherently dishonest, or if simply their ego will get in the way of them telling you the truth. I've had people that are very talented and, otherwise very, very good, but because they didn't want to admit that they couldn't handle a certain load, or they didn't want to admit that something was broken, they wouldn't admit it, or they would gloss it over, or they would not bring it up, or they would even shine me on and say, yes, that's all taken care of, right? And then when you dig in and find out it's not all taken care of. So don't be ashamed to ask someone to prove that what they just told you is true. That's all taken care of. Okay, show me. And then if somebody says, what, you don't trust me? You could say something like, no, I don't trust anyone. I don't even trust myself. Show me. Right? There's nothing wrong. It's like, hey, or you could say, you know what? Reagan said something really powerful about that. He said, trust but verify. Okay, because some people, they will get morally offended if you say, you don't trust me. Even though we know very well that humans tend to lie, we get really offended when somebody says, hey, prove what you said to me is true. You have to develop the thick skin and the fortitude to get past that. If you say, hey, show that to me, and that person gets pissy, you can say, I need you to show that to me. And if that person starts to get morally indignant, which is often the case, I'm offended. I can't believe that you asked me to show you this. You're impugning my character. And it's like, nah, I'm running this business and I need to confirm that things are done, and it's irresponsible for me not to confirm it. So can you show me that right now? No, I'm not going to give you 5 minutes. I want you to show me that right now. You don't have 5 minutes to prepare. You told me it was done. If it's actually done, if you told me the truth, you can show that to me right now. And if they're like, well, I don't want to, nope. The only reason why you can't show me this right now is if it's not actually done. So I'm going to give you a chance. Is it done or is it not? If it's not done, I want you to just cop clean right now, and we'll make this a learning point and we'll get past this. But you need to understand that I'm not the person that you can just say that to. Was it actually done when you told me it was done? Now, very few people will say, you know what, I apologize. I was wrong, right? So you need to give them the opportunity and say, hey, look, man, people lie. It's in human nature to lie. I need to develop a relationship with you where I can trust you. And I need you to know that I'm going to check on things. And it's nothing personal about you. It's personal about me, because if I don't check on those things, I'm being irresponsible. That's my world. Now, if you can't roll with that, that's fine. We don't have to work together. It's cool. No, no harm, no foul. We'll part ways, and that'll be that. But if you do want to work with me, I want to let you know that I accept mistakes, but I don't accept dishonesty. I will let you be dishonest to me this one time if you were dishonest, and we'll get past it. So do you want to tell me right now, were you dishonest about this? Was this not actually done? Now, even still, most people will try to hedge. They'll try to explain it. Okay. Just get right to the core of it. Was it done or was it not? Or was it not? Show me what you've actually done. This to me is the sort of the foundational attitude that you need to have, and that your managers need to have. The people that are leading, the people that are managing, they need to care. They need to care. Now, using Simpleology as a tool to organize all of these things is kind of like, that's the starting point. If you don't have that, you're lost, because you're not going to have some kind of a management system to know whether or not things are done. As you use the pathway to power and you get better and better at the training, it's going to tell you about things like the follow-up and understanding culture. These are things that you have to refine, but we all have to start with working on ourselves. In Simpleology 101 and White Belt and Yellow Belt, these give us the foundational things that we need to work on as individuals to be able to be ultimately good leaders. Because if we can't be effective individuals, we can't be effective leaders. So Gabriel here, who doesn't want the last name to be used. We have a lot of Gabriels and Gabriels, and I don't know which one. Sadly, it may be only a matter of time until the brain scans from the chips that they want to install in our craniums will be used as evidence of deception or perjury, unlike the current standard polygraph. That is very possible that will happen. That will happen. Rodney Gagnon had a great line in here. Ronnie said, "It's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust your kid's attorney." That's a really, really good one. That's a really, really good one to use. We've got Taylor in here, Naima Taylor, saying, Mark just saying, ciao, hope you're well. Glad to be stateside and able to make these sessions live. So I'm actually not stateside right now. I'm on the other side of the globe. Oh, you're glad to be stateside, I think, and able to make the sessions live. That's cool. We got one from David Barnes here. He says, hey, Mark, I'm starting to feel confident about my ebook, so I should have a good presentation with a funnel for it, or the hot seat. Thank you, sir. So David, that's awesome that you're finally doing this. What I'm going to tell you is just make it live, man. What I would love to see you do is, before we're on the hot seat, is that you release this somewhere, and you can tell me how many visitors you have, right? Because I think, and I think you're starting to figure this out, that you're breaking through the fear barrier. We're afraid to put our things live. We're afraid to test them because we're afraid of judgment. And once we understand that 20 iterations ago, we may have had a product that a whole bunch of people in the world would have loved, we sort of get over this perfectionism. Thanks for all the feedback about the audio and the video, guys. Yeah, this is great. Alejandro Gomez is saying, customers love my product, but churn after 3 to 4 months. By the way, guys, I've been awake for almost 2 days straight. I got a little bit of sleep last night, but I'm readjusting into the time zone. And yeah, hopefully I should be time zone adjusted here very quickly. Customers love my product, but churn after 3 to 4 months. How do I turn one-time buyers into lifelong fans? So Alejandro, I need to know more about your product. So what is the inherent repurchasing value? So there's all kinds of guesses I can make about this, but if they love your product and they churn after 3 to 4 months, depending on what kind of product it is, can change things radically. Is it something that they will need to use and will want to use consistently month after month after month? Is it something that they will need to use, that they will consistently use month after month after month? If it's something like food, you have to understand that sometimes people go through fetishes with food. Like they might be, going through like a little phase where they're really into eating durian or something, for example. I don't know if you've ever had durian. It smells terrible, but tastes wonderful, right? I know people that eat durian for their whole lives, but I also know people who've gone through durian phases. So if you had a durian delivery service, maybe people would love that product, but do they necessarily want to eat durian day in, day out? Do they necessarily want to eat durian day in and day out? What is the compelling reason for them to want to use your product or service over and over and over again? So if it's a product, you can sort of turn it into a service if you can make it convenient for them. So when I was living in the Philippines, in one of the areas I had this service that would deliver wild caught seafood. I would use these guys all the time because I could reliably go to them and then reorder. I knew the quality I was getting. I knew that I could rely on them to deliver at a certain time. And it was congruent with the identity of who I want to be long term, right? I had a grass-fed beef delivery service that did the same thing. So those were the main places I was getting my food. I would go to those places, I would reorder those things. Now, if those were things that I just wanted to try once or twice, even if I loved those things, you wouldn't expect me to be a lifelong customer. You wouldn't expect me to be a lifelong customer. It might not be a habit. It may not be a habit. So one thing that you can do is you can help people develop an identity that is congruent with using your product or service over and over again. Hopefully it's something that's healthy for that person. We don't want to hijack someone's identity so that they develop a habit of eating gummy bears, right? That wouldn't be, in my mind, a very healthy thing to change someone's identity into. But I mean, this is the psychology. We can use it for whatever we want, but this is the way it goes. So if people love your product and they're not lifelong fans, they probably don't have an identity that's congruent with them wanting to use the product or service consistently. Either that or it's not delivering a result for them on a consistent basis. It depends all on what you're selling, right? So if we're selling a marketing service or some kind of a business service, that's going to be very, very different from somebody selling internet service or some other kind of utility or commodity or some kind of food. Jessica Harper says, Mark, I'm the bottleneck in my own company. Everything funnels through me for approval. How do I get out of my own way? Well, sometimes that's okay up until you have reliable systems in place where you don't have to be the bottleneck. That needs to be so, because you need to be paying attention to the details of whether or not you are gaining or losing money. If you are not on top of those details, it's going to get out of your control. So you need to find out what are the high-me things that you can systemize. Now, one nice thing about using Simpleology, when you get into the higher levels of learning how to use it with delegation automation and all of the systemization tools that we have and the trigger words and all these things in Simpleology projects, you will get better at controlling more things because we have tools to help you speed up the process of getting visibility on these things. We have tools to speed up the process of helping you get visibility on these things. For example, if you use the delegation automator, when you have that module turned on inside Start My Day, you will see whether or not all of the delegation automators that you have for that day were actually done. It's going to be green if the previous day's stuff that was due that day was done. It's going to be red if not. And if it's red, you can click on it and see which of the things that you were delegated, that you actually delegated, are complete. Now, just remember that delegation, just because somebody says something is done, doesn't mean that it actually was done, right? So this is why in a lot of business systems, we have error correction and fault tolerance and oversight built into these things. So I'll give you a really interesting example to understand why this has to be done in a certain way. If you go to the police department, if you have quality control by, people having a code where people are enforcing the code, and you say, hey, these are things that we're not allowed to do as police officers. And if you see somebody doing that, you have to report them. Well, if you get into most, especially in big city scenarios, you'll find that there is a culture of, if you tell on me for breaking the law, for taking a bribe, you're a bad guy, and you're not to be trusted. So how do they solve that? If the police officers can't police themselves, well, this is why we have things like the internal affairs division of police departments, because we know that humans tend to be dishonest. And we know that when people are close, they will often lie to cover up for each other. Even in the US Army, I remember there were all of these Army-wide inspections that had to occur. And I'm going to use some language that's a little bit crass, but if you showed somebody as failing the inspection, they were often called buddy effers. Like, hey, I'm not going to backstab you by telling the truth about how unprepared you are for war. To let you know how systemic dishonesty is, it even happens in the military, where it's a life or death requirement for people to be ready. So we even have these external people that would come out. They were from different units and they would check us out. But I saw people lie about being ready, and the other guys were like, yeah, I'm not a buddy effer, right? And I was like, wow, seems to me like you're effing your buddy if you don't tell the truth in this case and don't actually get them ready for war. There's a lot of nuance about how that conversation goes, but this is the reality that we're dealing with. So you've got to have ways of coming on the outside. You can do things like you can hire ghost shoppers to go through your customer experience and tell you what they saw. That's a really good thing to do, by the way. Hire ghost shoppers. Have people go into your store, go onto your website and tell you what their experience was. Because if you have people in your team that are saying everything is fine, but it's not actually fine, you have a real serious problem. And again, it's human nature. People are going to cover things up. It's a terrible state of affairs, but that's just the way things are. And you have to employ measures to make sure that you're not going to be deceived. Seems like this is kind of a recurring theme today, right? I apologize if I'm a little bit slow today, guys. I'm so tired. I'm going to be staying up for probably about 12 more hours and then reset onto this time zone. I watched the sunrise here where I am, which was wonderful. And hopefully all of this light exposure and then going to sleep early tonight will get me totally reset in the new time zone. And by the way, I did all the things that I tell you guys about this morning. I was out on the beach with my feet on the ground watching the sunrise. This is the actual stuff I do. And it's not just for resetting my clock. It's actually for just improving my general health. I like to live on East Coast facing beaches when I can. I wasn't for the last several months. And I do feel much, much healthier when I can watch the sunrise directly over the beach and connect myself to the ground and be more connected with nature throughout the day. Ooh, this is a good one from Brian Fletcher. Brian says, hey, Brian, he said, my best employees keep getting poached by bigger companies. How do I keep top talent without matching Silicon Valley salaries? Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a real problem. So you have to do this. Look, you can do this through emotional loyalty, right? And that will get you so far. But that emotional loyalty will break down the moment you stop serving people in most cases. So you want to have a really good way of finding out who's really emotionally loyal to you. Tell them that you're having cash flow trouble and that they may not get paid over the next month, but you're fighting to get through it and you'll make good on it. Just say, hey, look, we have to fight to get through this. We just can't make payroll right now. I am asking you to stay on and not get paid. And I know that that's a terrible thing to ask. And I know you've got bills to pay and everything. However, we're in this situation and I'm going to make it up to you. I promise. See what happens. See what happens. Even your most loyal people will break often in those situations. Now, the people who are like, hey, you know what? I'm going to fight with you to the end. I don't care how long it takes. That person, you need to keep in your foxhole for the rest of your life. You owe it to that person for that loyalty to repay that loyalty. If somebody's going to be that loyal to you, you need to be that loyal to them. If somebody's going to be that loyal to you, you need to be that loyal to them. Okay, but you can find this out. You can find this out by testing it. Okay, so that emotional loyalty is one way, but really what you need to do is you need to have logical loyalty. You need to show them, hey, look, you could go to this other company right now and they're making you this offer and I can't match that. I don't have as much money as them, but I believe in this company, right? So if you can give somebody stock options that give them a viable pathway of making a 10x improvement over what they would get paid just by going to work straight for that Silicon Valley company that's already hit it big, you're giving them an opportunity to roll the dice a little bit. At the end of the day, it's got to come down to the emotional loyalty and the financial loyalty. And sometimes it's going to come down to mission loyalty. If you have principled people who, want to do good things in the world and that's important to them, sometimes when they are on board with your mission and they know that you're really serious about it and that you're actually showing up and doing it, they will give you loyalty for that. Some people. Everybody's wired a little bit differently, but I'll tell you right now, at the end of the day, it does come down to survival. No matter how much emotional loyalty and mission loyalty you have, people do have to make their family survive. Okay, just going through the. Emma Sullivan has a really good one. She said, hey, Emma, she said, I have a waiting list of clients, but I'm scared to hire more people because last time cash flow nearly killed us. How do I scale safely? That's a really good question. So what I would say is just figure out, okay, how many people can you service now? Have you maximized that capacity? Now, do you have some people on there who can be trusted to train other people? Can you service some people and train people to take on more people at the same time? Yes, you're taking on that expense and it's a risk. You're taking on that expense and it's a risk. So here are some different ways that you can manage this. You can tell people, hey, we're maxed out at capacity right now. I want to try to bring some people on. I'm bringing untested people on right now to service your account if we do it. I'm gonna let you try us out at a discount, understanding that these are untested people. Are you willing to roll the dice with me? Here's my commitment. I will keep turning people over and turning people over and turning people over until we find the people who do this exactly properly and you're satisfied, and then you pay full price. But you've got to promise me that you're going to work with me, and I'm going to promise that I'm going to work with you. Now, this lowers the risk. This lowers the risk because most people understand that there is often a training period. So even the people that are buying the service, it has to make sense to them to say, okay, hey, so why would I pay less right now for imperfect service? Well, I know that I'm going to get some service. I will get something, and I know that I will have properly trained people at the end. In some ways, it gives them more trust in the process if you do it that way. So those are the types of thinking processes that you want to apply to this that will allow you to scale with less risk. Kyle Morrison said, my ads ROI was 5x last year. That's amazing. Now it's barely 1.5x and costs keep rising. How do I adapt before the channel dies completely? Well, 1.5x is still quite good. I don't know whether you're measuring that on immediate day 0 ROAS or if that's your day 30 ROAS. I don't know what that is, but of course, you do have to be looking at the long-term value of that. If somebody is getting a day 0 high ROAS, but they're getting a lot of refunds, they're actually getting a negative net ROAS, right? So what I would say is count your blessings while you still have 1.5, but do understand that ad costs are increasing right now, and the number of people going online is increasing, but the number of advertisers is going down. Now, this is according to my 2026 roadmap update, which I hope you guys all read. That was an analysis of things that I see going on in the market right now. And one of the things that I see is that the ads market is going to the people who have priced everybody else out. The ads market is going to the people who have priced everyone else out. And this is always going to be the natural consequence of paid ads markets. This is why the people that try to sell you on paid ads services and paid ads philosophies, well, maybe they can do it, right? Maybe they can do it, but you've got to understand it's Game of Thrones. You either win the Game of Thrones or you die, as they said in that movie. If you're playing the paid ads game, it is going to evolve to a point where he who can spend the most for the customer wins, and it edges everybody else out. This is why integration marketing. And if you guys haven't gone through the integration marketing training, I strongly encourage you to do so. That's just one of the many, many things that you have access to inside the account as a Simpleology business class member. Of course, the most important thing is that you log into my.simpleology.com every day and you do the training that you see on the screen and allow it to guide you through the pathway to power. That is the single most fundamentally important thing. And then getting your team doing that is the next thing. And then you can add all of these other skills, and all of the other skills are helpful, but until you fix the foundational things, the higher level things are not as important. Olivia Grant says, I hear what you're saying about all of this. I feel guilty taking time off because the team slacks when I'm not watching. How do I build a culture that runs without constant oversight? Yeah, well, first of all, you don't, okay? Because there has to be oversight from someone. Doesn't necessarily have to be you, but it has to be someone. You have to have people and mechanisms in place to check all the things, okay? So it's the fundamental paradox of business. It's the fundamental paradox of business. If you want to get away from your business, you must have someone in that business who is fundamentally incentivized enough and has the sensibility enough to keep the culture strong. So the foundational thing you need to do with your culture is get everybody logging into my.simpleology.com every day and doing the training. You just watch the video that's on the screen and let it guide you through the pathway to power. Let everybody in your company do that. That fixes a lot of the broken things in culture. And eventually that becomes sort of like a self-reinforcing system because there are more people thinking the same way. Hey, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be great if you just had people who were like, you know what? It actually makes more sense for me to be a responsible human being who gets things done. Because I know that if I can be more responsible and effective in this company is going to be more effective in the long term. And that means I have better long-term chances for survivability for me and my family. Interesting epiphany to have, right? But it takes time and energy for that to occur. This is why using Simpleology as the foundational thing that they all do is the baseline prescription, because it does eventually change people's minds. It does eventually change behaviors. It has massive, profound impacts on people that are motivated like you right away. You can use it as a filtration system. When I've had people come to me and they go, hey, people complain to me about my employees tell me they don't like using Simpleology because they don't like micromanaging themselves. And I tell them, you know what? I can tell you with 90% certainty that person is probably not going to be good for your company. What they're telling you is I don't want to be held accountable for what I have to do. And if you don't want to be held accountable for what you have to do, well, what am I paying you for, right? If you don't want to be held accountable for what you're supposed to do, what am I even paying you for, right? So you adjust the culture over time. You weed out the people who are not good culture fits. You incentivize people who can be trusted. You have external checks and balances on these things. But this is one of the burdens as entrepreneurs in the beginning phases. Until you have those things set up, you need to be the one checking the things. You've got to be absolutely fierce and fighting those battles. With that, you guys, I think we're at the end of our time, and we're going to wrap it up as always, thinking about the crossroads. Every day, we are faced with decisions. Am I going to do things that are going to strengthen me or weaken me? Am I going to do things that are bringing me closer to or moving me further away from the things that I want? We're always making decisions. It's the inevitability of action and reaction, right? If you guys have gone through Simpleology 101, you will have learned about that, the inevitability of action and reaction. Our job as humans and beings is to take responsibility for which actions we choose and choose the actions that make us stronger and bring us closer to the things that we want. And that is one of the many things that is reinforced in your mind over and over and over again as you log into my.simpleology.com every day and go through the training. It will help you understand and habitualize that sensibility more and more and more. And with that, I wish you guys all a beautiful day or night, wherever you are. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully I will be better adjusted to the new time zone. See you guys.